Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we will be diving into integer laws. They may look complicated, but once you know the rules, it'll be a breeze. Let's go. So, what are integers? Integers are whole numbers. So think 2, 1, 0, -5, -3. So basically numbers that aren't fractions or decimals. Now let's talk about the rules. So something very simple is two positives adding. And so an example would be +2 plus +2. And we all know that that is +4. What happens if there's two negatives adding? We can take -2 plus -2 as an example. Since they both have the same symbol, we can just add the two numbers and add negative in front since both of them are negative. So let's do, so since both of them are 2, we can just conclude that 2 plus 2 is 4. And since they're both negative, we add the negative sign in front. So what this is telling us is -2 plus -2 equals -4. What happens if there's a positive and a negative adding? So in this case, we can use +4 and -3. So basically, what we can do is find the difference of these two numbers right here. And in this case, what we can do is 4 minus 3. And 4 minus 3 equals 1. And the last thing we want to do is look at the symbol of the biggest number. And in this case, the biggest number here is 4. And 4 here is positive because there's no negative symbol in front of it. So what we have, 4 plus -3 equals +1. That's correct. Alright, what happens if it's a negative and a positive? So let's see. We'll start off with -8 plus 3. And the first thing we want to do is find the difference between these two numbers. So we'll do 8 minus 3. And 8 minus 3 equals 5. And the last step is to look at the biggest number. And in this case, the biggest number is 8. And the symbol of 8 is negative. So what we have is -5. So the answer for -8 plus 3 is -5. And that, check. Alright, so for subtracting integers, it's slightly more trickier. So of course, if there's two positive integers that are subtracting, it's pretty easy to answer. So 8 minus 5 is 3. And 5 minus 8 is -3. But what happens if there is two negatives subtracting? So for example, I'll say -8 minus -5. So what we want to keep in mind is it's always easier to add than it is to subtract. So what we can do is flip these signs. We can make this to a positive and this into a positive. And what we're left here is with -8 plus +5. And so we can find out this easily from what we learned previously. We can do 8 minus 5, which is 3, and take the symbol of the biggest number, which is still 8. And so we're left with -3. So we know -8 minus -5 equals -3. And that checks out. Alright, well, what if there is a positive minus a negative? So for example, I'll have +3 minus a negative 5. We can use the same flipping signs rule because it's always easier to add than subtract. So what we can do here is 3 plus positive 5. And so it's so much easier to do this because subtracting like this is way more harder. So 3 minus negative 5 equals 8. It's very simple because 3 plus positive 5 is also 8. And it's basically the same thing. It's just you have to show your work by what you did there. Now what if it's a negative minus a positive? So for example, we'll have negative 3 minus 9. Alright, so obviously it's easier to add than it is to subtract. So we can do this. Negative 3 plus minus 9. And see how much easier it is. Because they're both the same symbol. They're both negative. And we're just adding. So it'll be really easy. So it's negative 12. Alright, now that you know how the integer laws work for addition and subtracting, keep an eye out for my part 2, which covers multiplication and dividing for integer laws. And always, keep your mind sharp. Make sure to like and subscribe, and comment any questions you have. See you later.